How's it going, everyone? It is I, Anime Outlet, and this is part 7 of What If Deku Had Sans Powers. And now, let's begin. Damn it! That's another one of our ranks gone, and we're just dropping like flies out of here. I'll show those damn kids. I'll show them. We're going to attack that summer camp they're attending right now. So why don't we start preparing? Dobby, I suggest you go and gather up some of the lower ranks, so that we can take on these low-life kids. Dobby would nod his head towards Shigaraki before going off to gather the remaining of the ranks that they had left. This is where they would end up gathering Spinner and Magni to join the upper levels to attack the UA students. So Kurogiri would open up a portal as the villains would then hop through it. Kurogiri would spread them out all across the different parts of the training camp, having had it mapped out a week prior. So now this is where we start the What If off, with Deku and his class now arriving at the UA training camp. 2 weeks had this is 2 weeks before the villains had decided to attack. So this training camp was going to last exactly 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks of long and hard, grueling training, they would finally get a break day. Sorry about that, guys. A car just honked outside. So basically, they'd finally get a break day to relax and just stretch their muscles so that their muscles can regain, as they're going to have to take the quirk licenses exactly right after this training camp were to happen. So with that, it would just be a relaxing day. However, when night would end up coming, they would all just be relaxing in the hot springs or playing hide and seek outside in the massive forest. However, all of a sudden, a horrible smell of smoke would end up filling all of their noses. What could that possibly be, many of them would ask. Some of them would turn towards the forest as they would see massive clouds of blue smoke filling the night sky, where they would also see a light tint of blue within it, as once they would end up hopping up towards a higher vantage point, they would see massive blue flames just destroying the forest surrounding them. As one of them would then yell out that they're being attacked by villains, as the heroes would come rushing out, asking what they could possibly mean, as the smoke would then fill their noses as well. Many of them would ask, "Wait, isn't there still some kids out there playing hide and seek? We gotta go look for them." Aizawa would tell the kids that were sitting in the hot springs and just inside that they need to stay where they are, as the Class 1B hero and teacher was going to just watch them, as he ends up jumping off with Izuku tailing him, not wanting his classmates to be in danger, as Izuku's mind would then immediately be flooded with ideas. It must be the League of Villains, he would end up thinking. He would also think of the young kid named Koda that had been at the training camp when they had arrived. He would end up jumping off to find where he was, where he would end up finding the little kid surrounded, just backing up against the wall, with it Muscular right in front of him, as if about to just chuck him off of the cliff that they were standing on. Izuku would jump down, kicking Muscular in the head, but it would do little to nothing to the giant villain. Izuku would jump back before staring at daggers right at Muscular. "Why would you try to hurt such an innocent kid? What did he ever do to you?" As Muscular would then turn towards Izuku, taking off an eye patch. "This little brat's parents happened to knock one of my eyes out before I killed them. So I just would like to finish off the family before I end up kicking the bucket." Izuku would jump towards Muscular, not allowing him to reach Koda. However, Muscular would just easily backhand Izuku off. "Well, then I guess I'll have to make this go the harder way." Izuku's eyes would then, or one of his eyes, would then start glowing a bright blue. Izuku would then lift up Muscular from the ground as he would start saying, "What the hell are you doing, you brat?" Muscular would then start floating over towards the cliff, pleading for Izuku to let him go. However, Izuku wouldn't care. How about all those people you killed? Weren't they pleading with you to spare them your lives? I would think so, but you did nothing. Izuku would then release his grip as Muscular would fall down to his doom beyond the cliff. Izuku would grab Koda and would jump off towards where the heroes were and his classmates hiding out at the main base area. Izuku would drop them off before rushing off to go help Aizawa in the search for the rest of their classmates. This is where he would encounter some other villains, but they would all just be easier to take care of than even Muscular, who Izuku just had to lift up using soul manipulation and drop him off of a hill. So these were quite easy villains. They were nothing compared to All for One, and it would show they were not as well trained as All for One had been, and they lacked all the experience. All for One had been fighting One for All users for generations, while these villains had nothing of that caliber experience. So Izuku and Aizawa would go around defeating them, picking up the students as they would go, as they would then help, making each villain easier than the last, as all of them would end up being captured, including Garaki. Kurogiri would not have anything else to do, rather to go and be captured with Shigaraki than not knowing where to continue on without the League. So with them captured, they would then be transported off to a prison as police cars would flood the training camp. Many of their students would end up being picked up by their parents as they would then go off towards their homes. After this, many of them were upset at UA as this was the second time they had been attacked. Of course, word got out about the USJ despite Nezu's tries to keep it under wraps. And since they had been basically attacked twice now, and their children's lives were at stake so much, they were just thinking about pulling them out of the hero program and UA entirely. However, Nezu made them think, is it really rational to do that? We've been training your kids to risk their lives every day to save others. And that's what being a hero is. You took a risk by letting them join the hero program, and now you're trying to take them out for risking their lives. This is what they're going to have to do every single day as a hero. And it actually is quite good practice, even though villains are attacking them with the threats to kill them and all of this. They have the murder mentality. Well, the villains are just going at them, so they have to keep up that, knowing that villains are there trying to off them. And this is great training, as it's a lot of pressure for them to be on. You gotta think about this. Are you gonna let your child's dreams fall right out of their grasp? I'm sure you wouldn't have liked that if you wanted to be a hero, would you? Nezu's pleas would actually end up being quite well liked within the parents, as most of them would end up realizing this, as they would all decide not to pull their kids out of school, despite a select few would actually end up doing it. Now, after this, a day would pass as the licensing exams would then begin. Izuku would easily tear through the entirety of the place, easily passing with the help of his his powers and his classmates. So when the next event would begin with the rescue and having to fight off the villains, which were just some heroes disguised as villains basically, but many of them could just tell it was heroes acting like villains, as it was a licensing exam, so they would all just be deciding whether they were going to rescue a bunch of people from the debris or try to fend off the villains, which Izuku would easily be able to do both, sending Bones to be able to lift up debris off of people while also managing to keep the villains back at bay, as these actors who were basically faking as victims were easily able to get a liking for Izuku with his confident personality and reassurance that everything was going to be okay towards them. As Izuku, along with the entirety of his class, would end up getting their licenses, besides, of course, Bakugo, who was fighting too much with the others trying to fend off the villains. So, with Izuku now having his license to use his quirk, which in reality was his powers, Izuku's dream had basically become true. However, it would take a lot more than that for his dreams to become a hero would end up becoming reality. So a couple years would end up passing. Izuku would graduate from UA High School, as we now see him standing high, proud, on top of a building, smiling down. His name was plastered everywhere. Izuku, that was the name of the hero. as many of people didn't know that because his hero name was Sans. He had decided to honor the person that made his life just a dream, and so he chose the hero named Sans. Plastered everywhere was Izuku's name on toys, action figures, everything. Even he had his own branded ketchup. So Izuku's life and dream had become a reality, and he was smiling down, knowing that it was perfect. He also knew that he just had to wait for the next league to arise and to take them down, just like he had to the League of Villains. And that is where this What If ends, everyone. I thank you all for watching. I hope you all did enjoy the series. It was really fun to make. I thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.